Like right now, like it seemed like Christian dating is trash right now.
Absolutely, it's horrible. Yeah. Over and over and over, I was put in positions to deal with rejection. And that's the person who's like, they're insecure, they're overcompensating. I was put in positions where I had to make a decision. Am I going to choose self or am I going to choose the mission? How do I be who God has called me? What is a man of God? How do I be that?
Yeah.
There are seasons where we feel like we know, and maybe we can even theorize what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe I can like morally or doctrinally explain it to you, but I feel like practically that's when we start struggling. Like when it's time to practically walk it out in your everyday life, that's usually when we see the gaps. And like I think for a lot of men, the majority of those gaps aren't exposed. Honestly, bro, till we get to like what most of us is honestly living for, which is marriage or dating. How about I say that? Dating. And I feel like a lot of times when we get to try to step into the dating arena is when we see, how well I've actually been formed and how well I've actually been shaped. That's when we start seeing the holes in the cup.
Yeah, for sure. Like I've noticed that even in my marriage, like I feel like we've talked about it before, like marriage is one of the biggest sanctifiers of all time that God uses. Because like when you're in such close proximity with another person, like all your flaws are being revealed. All these things, all this integrity that you may have built up or you haven't built up is now being put at full display.
Yep.
And so yeah, like when you come in context of relationships and dating and marriage, like a lot of that stuff involved.
Yeah, man. And I think like for me, man, I started to wonder, okay, like, what is it necessarily that maybe these holes kind of represent, or what are maybe some symptoms or some traits that we usually get. And like I started to see, man, like as I started researching, just kind of we chopped it up.
Yeah.
And like just talk, but like, man, like with men, there's typically this gap when it comes to relational leadership, when it comes to like initiative integration, when it comes to emotional confidence.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that.
Like all of these, like mission-minded and oriented, these are all like gaps that maybe I thought I knew of or had some idea about. But when we actually stepped into an arena where now I need them and I need to be able to operate in them fully for this to work, dating, marriage, right?
Yeah.
Now the cat's out the bag and everybody sees I don't have them. And I feel a level of shame about it and I feel a level of resent about it.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of men, man, that's the place where they're at right now trying to work out of.
Yeah. So what do you think, like, as a single man, like what are some things that you probably should start doing, having known this information now, like having known like, all right, like when I come into such close proximity in a relationship, whether I'm dating or we get married, like what are some things that I should be kind of focusing on now or working on now, because I know that season is going to come?
Yeah, man. I think it's those moments where, we talk about like relational leadership and just like it's really the idea of passivity, Can I walk confidently, but also courageously?
Okay.
And I think that like that a lot of times is a struggle, especially like if you do with people pleasing or like, whatever maybe it is for you. Like I feel like when you start talking about men, you can almost view it as on a spectrum. Like if there's men that are quiet, then there are also men that are loud.
Yeah.
If there are some men that are bravado and macho, then there are also some men that are not.
Yeah.
And I think that, man, as I've kind of grown in myself, I've kind of seen that, okay, like, on one side of like we're all dealing with insecurities and challenges, no matter where we are. They just kind of come out different. So like, man, I think for all of us, we're kind of searching for, okay, if I'm gonna be a relational leader, how do I do that? And I think where that comes with, number one, understanding what courage is. And courage is when I prioritize duties over self. Like when I begin to prioritize my responsibilities over my own self, my own feelings, and the feelings of someone else, like I am getting to the heart of what courage really is.
Okay.
And I think that if we were honest, there are reasons why we shy away maybe from prioritizing what's really important. Yeah. And for like all my business leaders, like you got hard decisions and hard situations you got to confront in business. But like for a lot of them, you put it to the back burner, you're avoiding having this conversation because of whatever it is, a disappointment of you, someone else,
Yeah.
Like, and it's the idea of no. The core relational leadership is I'm going to lead with conviction, and I'm going to lead with courage.
Yeah.
And I think that again, those are a lot of the conversations that men have to really kind of be not just oriented to, man, but given space to do it. Like I was talking to one of the guys the other day, man, and like for me, it came early on in my life. Like, just being in a sales role. I was a sales guy for a long time, man. And I graduated, I played football, and did the football thing in college, and that was great. And after it wrapped up, I got into corporate sales, worked my way to real estate. And kind of in that stint of time, I was outdoor sales rep.
Yeah.
So I'm knocking on 100, 110 doors a day.
Sheesh.
And
And it was Florida? Or no?
North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
That was,
Saying Florida
it was
sounds
hot.
Yeah.
I'm walking 3 miles a day, like
Yeah.
we working.
Yeah.
But like over and over and over, I was put in positions to deal with rejection. I was put in positions where I had to make a decision. Am I going to choose self or am I going to choose the mission? Like I was put in position to where I had to learn how to articulate and how to speak and how to, and I think again, all of these are arenas that when you start considering the landscape today, because I really feel like that's what it really is. When you start considering the landscape today, man, so much has changed even from, 10 years ago. And the way that men are being brought up now don't look the same. So it's to say that, okay, I was graced to step into a lot of these arenas. God, put me in specific rooms and put me in specific conversations and put me in, certain arenas.
Yeah.
But what about the dudes today who, the ecosystem or the landscape that a man has grown has changed so much, and maybe they aren't getting those opportunities, bro. Maybe they aren't getting that space or that training ground to grow a lot of what God allowed to grow in me.
Yeah, I feel that because like you're saying, like, man, like God puts you in specific places, let you meet specific people, have specific opportunities, and those opportunities shaped you, molded you, and prepared you for inevitably what's next. Now, especially in the conversation of relationships or dating, I don't think that we need to like go from relationship to relationship or date a person to blind dates and going out and whatever. Like I don't think you need all of that to become the person that God would want you to be inevitably for your spouse. Like be the person that you're looking for. I think doing exactly what you were saying, like being in the time and the space that God has called you to, being faithful with it, cultivating it, stewarding it well, really inevitably helps prepare you to be that person that you need to be for the person that God has called you to. And I think so many people kind of lose sight of that, that God is forming you right now in your everyday mundane walk. And I think a lot of people lose sight of it is how you steward what you have currently. That's what prepares you for what God will have next for you. Like I can never recall the scripture, but it was just like, man, when you're faithful with small things, God can appoint you to more. Like whatever, I'm paraphrasing, but like I think that goes to say just like, man, for the singles or people that are know that one day like I'm called to marriage, I'm called to have a spouse or whatever. Like, man, I think don't lose sight of where God has you now. Cultivate what God has you now, because He's trying to develop traits in you right now. Like don't disregard the mundane. It might seem boring right now, but God is really shaping you and forming you for this next step. And I honestly think because people are so, I guess, they're so future sighted or far sighted, they miss what God is going on right now. I think a lot of that has tampered with the dating pool.
Oh, for sure.
Especially like in the church. Like, I think a big, conversation that we're seeing all over social media is, dating, marriage, all of that. And I think we're going to talk about it a little bit more later, but like, man, like marriage isn't always the end goal in your season of singleness. And I think as people kind of really understand that and value the season that they're in right now, it really does help shape you and form you. But because we have so many people that are impatient and you just want to get to the next step, you want to be able to show everybody the picture on Instagram that you got engaged. You want to show everybody the colors that you laid out in your Pinterest board and it came alive. You want that moment so bad that you disregard where God has you in this current season. And I think for myself, man, like I think one thing that I've learned in my season of singleness is contentment, but also stewardship. And once again, I think that is throwing a lot of Christians off. And I think if we were able to steward what God has for us right now a lot better, I do think that'll help everybody out in their relationships. But what are your thoughts about that? Because like right now, like it seemed like Christian dating is trash right now.
Absolutely, it's horrible.
Yeah,
and like on one end of the scale, like you were saying, bro, like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get this soft launch with the hand, with the ring on it and all of that. And that's the person who's like, they're insecure, they're overcompensating. Like I am overextending to mask maybe what it is I'm dealing with or what I'm feeling. And on the other end of the spectrum, but you got people who are who like real deal are struggling to figure out maybe how do I maneuver maybe what dating looks like now, or maybe even where I feel like I'm at in my development, and I'm just jaded. Like I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm pissed. Like I feel like there is a lane of people that's like, man, you've been so hurt by maybe a lot of the disappointment you've experienced when it's come to dating that like it's triggered a level of deconstruction in my faith and in church and in who God is. And the reality of it is that, you know, God is still on the throne and God loves you very much. And I think that's why we're kind of having these conversations, is to remind us, like, man, even though like there are these moments where we feel this gap, that doesn't mean that God isn't with us and that God isn't here to see us through it and even give us perspective to navigate it and to grow. And I think that's what it's been for me, man, because like my whole, like I've been single for, largely for the past, 7-8 years. And there's for sure been a lot of disappointment in it, man. Yeah. Because of what I hoped and what I've expected. And there have been gaps that have been exposed to me, man. And I think that inevitably what we're trying to say is that as we look big picture and zoom out at like, why is it that this stuff doesn't come out until dating? Why don't I see these holes until dating? But more importantly, why are there holes in general? Like, bro, we just see that, oh, shoot, we're dealing with a world or culture that has evolved and changed.